Shalom and good day all, this is T-Helen29 back again, doing an indie comic review, and in this indie comic review I have not just indie, but indie and Marvel comic review, correction there. I have Toxic Summer, Vengeance of MoonKnight, and also Kingspawn issue 33. I'll now get things organised for the first one that I'll be reviewing. So for the first one I'll be covering Toxic Summer, by Derek Charm. And first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside of the story? Sure enough it does, to which I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the area of the internal art, as we have a look around the beginning, middle, and of course the end. Now I want to point out that this particular story has 2 chapters, so I'll do my best to cover the art in relation to the story and also the characters around the beginning, middle, and end, best as possible. So as the story begins, we meet up with the characters known as Ben and Leo, as we have the character of Ben sharing about a place that he went to when he was younger, and now he wants to sort of like go back there again, but take his friend with him, and in the process he of course books or buys the tickets, expecting a nice big party there. But does that happen? So I'll now move to the next part of the story as we start to jump towards the middle of the story, or which is more so towards the end of the first story. They end up finding someone at the beach at Port Dorian, as they have turned up at the beach. Now this takes place a little bit not long after meeting someone by the name of John there, and they learned that the place has actually suffered from a bit of a toxic spill, and they now take this person to be moved on to an ambulance that is local in the area. As we start to jump into chapter 2, we catch up with Ben and Leo at the Shark Diner, and whilst they're here they end up catching up with someone known as AJ, and AJ sort of invites them to come along to spend some time with them whilst they're there. And as the story advances towards the end, we get some uninvited guests, but these guests are because of the toxic spill and we don't know what to expect next. So for the internal art, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the next area, and the internal art, 7.5 out of 10. Next area is the story, to which we have moving to the key areas, being the time, location, and cast. For the time, we have the next morning and that evening take place in one of the chapters, and we also have the location of Port Dorian Beach and also the diner that's there. The cast of characters consisting of Ben, John, Leo, Judy, and AJ. For the overall story rating of a 7.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the Vengeance of MoonKnight issue 5. So as we start to move into Vengeance of MoonKnight, does this cover in any shape or form connect to something that is happening inside with the story? In some essence, not so much, but I give it a 7 out of 10 for at least it attempted to do something. So next is we have a look at around the beginning, middle, and of course the end, and also what's happening story-wise with the characters. So as the story begins, we have the character of 8-Ball speaking to MoonKnight psychiatrist Andrea, and they are discussing some of the events to which they have learnt identity of who the fake MoonKnight is in this particular story, and we learn that this character's name is called the Shroud. We get to hear of a number of the events that take place in regards to the character of the Shroud, and I must admit this character of the Shroud almost feels like a MoonKnight version of or a DC / Marvel MoonKnight version of Azrael, just in this Marvel version though. And with MoonKnight no longer there. We have someone trying to take his place. And last but not least, towards the end, Twitch 8-Ball ends up catching up with the character of Reese and also Soldier. For the internal art, I give it a 7 out of 10. Next is the area in relation to the comic run, to which we did get some comic references, being the Devil's Reign, MoonKnight issue 1. Next is the time we had now being used a number of times and then being used a number of times in the story. And the location where most of this took place was the Midnight Mission and also a place called the Mount. The cast of characters consisting of MoonKnight, 8-Ball, Soldier, Hunter's Moon, Tigra, the Shroud, Reese and Soldier. For the overall story rating in this, I give a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move on to Kingspawn issue 33. So as we start to move into Kingspawn issue 33, does this cover in any way, shape or form feels like it connects to what's happening inside with the story? Not so much, to which I give it a 6.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the area of the internal art as we have a look at what's happening at around the beginning, middle and end, and also what's happening story-wise with the characters. So as the story begins, we end up catching up with Spawn, taking out one of the villains or enemies within this particular run. And of course there's quite a number of explosions and death in this. As we start to move towards the middle of the story, there are some other members from other groups that are making their appearance in this. One character by the name of Blood, spelled B-L-U-D-D, as also we have Spawn looking for a character by the name of Granny Blake, and a learning of a particular person by the name of Kruger, which at first sounded like it may have been a location, but it's actually the name of a person. And last but not least, towards the end of the story, to which we have Spawn learning where things will be taking place in the next issue, which is in Berlin. So for the internal art, I give it a 7 out of 10. Next is to move in relation to the area of the story. Considering how far we are issue-wise, did we get any comic book references to any of the previous issues? No, we didn't. Next is the area of time, to which we had moments earlier, to 1 to 17 minutes earlier. It then moved to 1 day and 2 days earlier. The location we do see turn up in the story is Berlin. The cast of characters, including ones that Spawn is looking for, one being Granny Blake. We have the character of Blood. We have the character of Kruger. And of course the main character himself being Spawn. For the overall story rating in this, I give a 6.5 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.